Orion's ears twitched nervously in the breeze, as though he heard her thoughts. In the depths of Allura's soul, a shadow stirred, and a nagging sense of dread tugged at her mind.
What if Malak is only the beginning?
Regardless, she continued on the Tolfair Pass, well rested and anxious to make progress. It had been years since Allura left the confines of the castle alone, and the open road beckoned her like it did when she was a child, calling to her with reckless abandon. Once she left her kingdom and entered Wildwood to the north, she felt the weight of her royal responsibilities wash away with each cool breeze that rustled the leaves in the canopy overhead. Random sunbeams shot through holes in the treetops, highlighting the underbrush in a seemingly storybook-like setting. Birdsong was all around her, and Orion's mostly quiet footsteps did not interfere too much with the other forest sounds. There was a gentle breeze from the south, bringing in a subtle hint of the ocean. This far inland, most of the crisp, refreshing southern air had mixed with the forest and produced more of an earthy scent, something she was unaccustomed to from holding court all these years.
I really need to get out more often.
The trip through Wildwood was refreshing, not just because of her verdant surroundings. Mainly, it was the pressure of politics and leadership being temporarily lifted that felt the best. She hugged the western edge of Wildwood after passing the road to Tenebar, keeping just inside the forest and off the road to avoid any unwanted attention. In high society, it was all too desirable to be noticed everywhere she went, something she had become accustomed to as a young woman, although the attention wasn't always what she hoped it would be. Men were enamored of her beauty, and women were simply jealous. It made for a difficult childhood, and an even more challenging time during her academy days. As she continued north along the edge of Wildwood, a large clearing appeared.
Interesting timing.
She remembered her mother saying that all the adversity she faced growing up for being too pretty would make her stronger and a better judge of character. At times it seemed futile, though. Allura was ostracized for being anything other than what her peers expected, what they felt comfortable with. Eventually, she grew confident in herself and simply dismissed their insecurities. As she matured, this became clear to her. She no longer gave thought to the rumors, only enough to discern any hidden truths they might convey. Underneath the sweet exterior she worked so hard to maintain was a formidable intuition, honed by years of constant scrutiny and politics. Allura passed the Janush Road shortly afterwards. A mix of wildflowers dotted the open grasslands, looking like a rolling sea of green with a patchwork of blue, purple, yellow, white, and red. The haze-covered peaks of the j.o.rey range loomed high and to the northwest.
Beyond those peaks lies the Carrot Waste. Hopefully no evil stirs in that desolate place.
The road began to curve gently towards the east. The sun was well past midday at this point, so she stopped briefly to take a break and have a light meal under the canopy of wildwood. Allura paused and thought for a moment.
Better to avoid the height of the day's heat near the southern base of the Dellan Range. I'll need to find an inn before nightfall, but a quick break would be nice.
She dismounted and quickly made camp just inside the forest. Allura leaned back against the rough bark of an ancient oak tree, her weary limbs grateful for the respite. Her small campsite was simple, a bedroll laid out and the remnants of her meager provisions in a cloth pouch at her side. The evening air carried the scent of earth and wood smoke, mingling with the faint sweetness of wildflowers. The forest around her felt both familiar and distant, as though it had changed subtly in her absence. Or perhaps it was she who had changed. The rhythmic chirp of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves lulled her into a sense of calm. She hadn't intended to fall asleep, but the day's journey had been taxing. Her eyelids grew heavy and her sight grew dim. Before she knew it, the soft hum of the forest drew her into a restless slumber. Allura woke with a start. Her heart was pounding. The shadows of the forest were longer now. The twilight hour painted everything in muted tones. Across the campsite, just beyond the circle of her dying firelight, a massive stag lay on the ground. His coat shimmered in the low light, impossibly white like moonlight on a still lake. His large, moss-covered antlers were intricate and looked as if they had been carved from living wood. He stared at her. His gaze was steady and piercing, but strangely serene. Allura froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The creature made no move to rise or flee. Instead, he seemed to radiate a calm, ancient presence, as if he were a fragment of wildwood itself.
I wonder if this is one of Malak's enchantments. Perhaps a subtle and mysterious sign to guide me? What are you trying to tell me?
The stag tilted its head ever so slightly and furrowed his brow as though he understood her words. Then, as the light shifted, he blinked slowly, rose gracefully to his feet, and took a slow, deep breath. His movements were fluid and almost otherworldly. Without a sound, he turned and disappeared into the trees, leaving Allura alone with her thoughts and the encroaching darkness.
That's odd. He made no sound while walking through the fallen leaves.
The long shadows cast by the setting sun distorted the once familiar shapes of trees and rocks, giving Wildwood a feral, untamed quality. Allura shivered from the chill in the air and the creeping realization of her vulnerability. The stag, with its sudden appearance while she slept, and its eerie disappearance, only highlighted that vulnerability. In her youth, she had ventured into the forest often, accompanied by her father and a retinue of palace guards. Back then, the woods had felt like an extension of home. It was a place of childhood adventure and magic. Now, alone under the vast canopy of twilight, it felt alien and imposing. She scolded herself silently for her earlier impulsiveness.
What was I thinking? Leaving the safety of the castle without an escort?
Her confidence in her ability to navigate this journey was beginning to waver. Determined not to linger, Allura quickly packed her belongings, stamped out the last remnants of her fire, and buried the remaining embers. She adjusted her cloak, pulling it tighter around her shoulders as she mounted Orion and set off at a brisk pace. The forest seemed to close in around them, each sound amplified by her adrenaline-heightened senses. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made her heart race. Allura pressed Orion to a faster pace, and the anxiety of the moment waned as she thought of the safety of the small town awaiting her. By the time she reached the edge of the forest, her emotions settled. A few hours later, she saw the first flickering torchlight of the town ahead. The sun had just recently set, and the sky had deepened into indigo, dotted with faint stars. She arrived at the inn later than she had hoped. Her legs were trembling from the exertion, and Orion was breathing heavily from the pace she had set. The warm light spilling from the windows was a welcome sight. She stabled Orion for the night with the stable master next door before entering the inn. Inside the simple dining hall, the air was thick with the scent of roasted meat, steaming vegetables, and hot, fresh bread. It mingled with the tang of ale and sweat. The sounds of laughter and boisterous conversation rose from the common area, but Allura felt no inclination to join the crowd.